Hello, friends, welcome once again. Today, our topic of discussion is endocardiosis in dogs. But before beginning, let's see why this disease is so important to study. Okay, you all will be amazed to know that endocardiosis is the most common cause of heart failure in small breed dogs and the most common cause of heart failure in dogs in general. And moreover, it is estimated that this disease accounts for 50% of canine cardiac disease. So that is why if you want to be a good clinician, it is very important to learn about this disease. Hopefully this information that it is the most common cause of heart failure in dog is enough to tie your attention to this topic until end. But before moving toward the endocardiosis or into our topic in general, I would like to discuss the structure and function of the heart. So let's study the basics of heart function and structure. As you can see, the heart is divided into four chambers. There is two atria and two ventricles. There is one atrium and one ventricle on the right side and one atrium and one ventricle on the left side. The atria are the chamber that receive blood while the ventricle are the chambers that pump blood. The right atrium here receives deoxygenated blood from the superior vena cava. As you can see here clearly here, the right atrium is receiving blood from superior vena cava, which drain blood. Superior vena cava drains blood from the veins of the upper organ and arms. The right atrium also receives blood from the inferior vena cava, which drain bloods from the veins of the lower organs and legs. In addition to this superior vena cava and inferior vena cava, right atrium also receives blood from the coronary sinus, which drains deoxygenated blood from the heart itself. Okay, this deoxygenated blood then passed to the right ventricle through the right AV valve. This is also known as tricuspid valve. Just be very careful to listen that the deoxygenated blood then passed to the right ventricle through the right AV valve, that is tricuspid valve. Tricuspid valve is a flap of connective tissue that opens only in one direction to prevent the backflow of blood from the ventricles. Okay, after it is filled, the right ventricle now pumps the blood through the pulmonary arteries. As you can see clearly here, pulmonary artery. The right ventricle pumps the blood through the pulmonary artery to the lungs for reoxygenation. Here gaseous exchange will happen. After blood passes through the pulmonary artery, the right semilunar valve closes. There is a valve between pulmonary artery and right ventricle, and this valve, also known as semilunar valve, closes and prevent the blood from flowing backward into the right ventricle. Now let's see what's happening in left atrium. The left atrium then receives the oxygen rich blood from the lungs via the pulmonary veins. Clearly see where is pulmonary veins. Okay, the valve separating the chamber on the left side of the heart is called the bicuspid or mitral valve. The blood passes through the bicuspid valve to the left ventricle, where it is pumped out through the aorta. Aorta is a major artery of the body. Now aorta is taking oxygenated blood to the organ and muscles of the body. Okay, once blood is pumped out of the left ventricle and into the aorta, the aortic semilunar valve closes. There is a valve present between aorta and left ventricle. Okay, this valve closes and it prevents the blood from flowing backward into the left ventricle. Okay, this pattern of pumping is also referred as double circulation. So I would like to draw your attention again mainly to these two valves which we are concerned here in endocardiosis. Endocardiosis mainly happens in mitral valve that is present between left atrium and left ventricle, and in tricuspid. Even there is only 10% chance of endocardiosis in tricuspid valve which is present between right atrium and right ventricle, but mainly it happens in mitral valve. So please be careful that right atrium and right ventricle, the valve present between them is tricuspid. Just remember there is in tri also there is the words R and I, and in right also there is alphabet R and I. So remember through this that The right atrium and right ventricle, there is tricuspid wall, and between left atrium and left ventricle, there is bicuspid valve, also known as mitral valve. Okay, hopefully you are very much clear about the basics of the heart structure and its function. So now we will move toward our main topic, that is endocardiosis. Okay, let's come back to the topic. So endocardiosis is also known as myxomatous AV valve degeneration or degenerative AV valve disease. So the one thing to note here is the term myxomatous and another is degeneration. So kindly note that it is degeneration of wall, neither inflammation nor infection. So based on the symptoms and breed presentation, to be a good clinician, you must have the capabilities to differentiate it from bacterial endocarditis. Okay, let's see how we can differentiate it. If a small breed geriatric dog with a loud systolic heart murmur is presented to you and possibly it is also has cough, it is most likely to have endocardiosis. Whereas if a larger breed dog presented to you with a history of lethargy and fever, and you also listen to a newly developed loud heart murmur, so be very suspicious of bacterial endocarditis instead of endocardiosis. So just see, if small breed old dog is presented, then it is the most probably heart murmur, and if larger breed dog with no age predilection, then it is most probably the cause of bacterial endocarditis. Why it is so important to assess the patient history and physical exam finding and blood work? Because these two disease in echocardiography, the two disease process often have similar appearance. So it is very important to look toward the patient history and blood work and its age, etc. So endocardiosis is a well-known cardiac disease which affects certain breed of dogs. It is myxomatous degeneration of the valves, and it mainly involves the left AV valve, leading to malformation and mitral insufficiency. Okay, as clearly written here, the degeneration mainly affects the left side or mitral valve. Just to remember, we can see things this way, that as the left ventricle is the thickest of the heart chambers and is responsible for pumping oxygenated blood to tissue all over the body. By contrast, the right ventricle solely pumps blood to the lungs. So, as left ventricle is pumping blood to whole body, so left ventricle needs to do more work. So, valve on the left side are subjected to more wear and tear. That is why myxomatous degeneration mainly affect the left side. It is just to remember, it's not a fact. Okay, but if we talk about facts, then there is 60% of affected dogs have only the mitral valve affected, while 30% have lesion in the both tricuspid and mitral valve, while only 10% have only tricuspid valve disease. But before going further and before discussing what is myxomatous degeneration, what is this scary term, I would like to discuss about the layers of the valve. It is very important to know the basics. Okay, so wall leaflet are composed of three distinct layers, as you can clearly see here. It is a trilamellar structure. Okay, the first layer here is fibrosa, then spongiosa, and then it is ventricularis. Okay, and on the both side it is covered by endothelium. The fibrous layer is mostly composed of collagen. It is interstitial cells and collagen fiber. These collagen fiber alignment plays a very big role in the closing of the valve. Okay, let's see. These collagen fibers align in a certain way during the backflow of systole or ventricular contraction. This alignment of the collagen fibers allow the valve to elongate in such a way that it form a complete seal between the atrium and left ventricle. And along with this collagen fiber alignment in the fibrous layer also gives valves a desired strength to withstand the backward flow of the blood from the ventricle and help in preventing regurgitation. Okay, hope it is clear that fibrous layer is mostly collagen, and this alignment of collagen is responsible for making a complete seal between the atrium and left ventricle. Okay, now let's see what is ventricularis. Ventricularis layer, which is a third layer, is mostly composed of elastin. So, as we all know, that elastin is a protein which has the ability to stretch out with stress but return to its original shape once the stress is removed. So, when the backflow ceases or the pressure from the backflow ease, this elastin recoils and thus causing the leaflets to fold up and open the seal so that blood may flow into the ventricles. I hope you are clear that collagen fiber in the fibrous layer helps in forming a complete seal. Then this ventricular layer elastin helps in recoiling and causing the leaflets to open up. Next is spongiosa layer. This is the middle layer between fibrous and ventricularis. This spongiosa layer is located between the ventricularis and fibrosa, and it is mainly composed of glycosamine glycans. This layer help the lubrication between these two layers, that is ventricularis and fibrous layer. Myxomatous degeneration is a process in which fibrous layer of the AV valve breaks down and cause mitral valve prolapse. When fibrous layer gets breaks down, spongiform layer get exposed and they start proliferation and which lead to nodular thickening of the cardiac wall leaflet most severely at their tip. Okay, let's explain this in simpler term. So in simpler term, as fiber and ventricularis layer are outer layer, as you have seen in the previous slide, so they have capabilities to withstand the wear and tear and high pressure environment of heart. But due to unknown causes, most probably genetic defects, this fibrous layer got weakened. Actually, what happened due to genetic defect as animal age, there is alteration in the synthesis of type 6 collagen, which is present in fibrous layer. And as we have seen previously slide that this collagen provide the desired strength to withstand the pressure of the blood. So this fibrous layer get weakened and breaks down, which expose the middle spongiform layer. As spongiform layer has no idea how to withstand this high pressure or hostile environment, it start proliferating in haphazard way, which leads to uneven thickening of the valve and result in valvular insufficiency. Okay, if we look at the literal meaning of myxomatous, it is a term derived from the word myxoma. Myxoma is a Greek word. Myxoma is derived from a Greek word, maxa, that means mucus. So, myxoma is a non-cancerous tumor growth in medical term. It contains mucus or gelatin-like substance, these tumors. For your kind information, the composition of mucus is water, ions, proteins, glycoproteins, lipids, and glycosamine glycans. And as we have previously discussed, the spongiform layer mainly is proteoglycans and glycosamine glycans. So it is composition of mucus. So the name myxomatous is given to the haphazard proliferation of spongiform layer. Okay, what are the gross morphological feature? Gross morphological feature of myxomatous degeneration are characterized by a voluminous and thickened leaflets of valve become large in size and thickened in both axes. This entity involves not only the valve, it also involves chordae tendineae, which also become thickened, elongated, and sometimes get ruptured. Okay, now let's discuss the signalement of disease. As we have previously discussed, that this disease affect most commonly older and smaller breed dog, and there is a very strong predilection for this disease in case of Cavalier King Charles Spaniel Dachshund. Okay, there is one more disease infamously associated with Cavalier King Charles Spaniel. Okay, any guesses? Okay, that is Chiari-like malformation. Okay, now, okay, let's discuss the pathophysiology of this disease. Due to valvular endocardiosis, now AV valve can't close properly. They become leaky. So when ventricle contracts, blood during systole or ventricle contraction leaks back into the atrium. As you can clearly see in this slide, if right side tricuspid valve is affected, then when right ventricle will contract, blood will regurgitate back into the right atrium. Over time, this will cause volume overload in the right atrium and there will be dilatation of the right atrium. This backflow of blood also cause increase in pressure in the right atrium, which cause increased resistance to the blood coming from superior and inferior vena cava. And over time, blood started to stays back in the vein, which manifests as edema of limbs and ascites in dogs. Hope it is clear. Then what happened in left ventricle? In left side, if left side mitral valve is affected, then it cause volume overload in left atrium and over time dilatation of left atrium and increase in pressure in left atrium, hinder the oxygenated blood coming from the pulmonary vein, and slowly blood started to stays back, which is manifest as pulmonary edema, and symptoms like coughing and gagging occur in animal. This regurgitation of blood back to the atrium also result in less blood going from ventricle to aorta. As there is backflow of blood into the atrium, so amount of blood which is left ventricle pumping into the aorta decrease, which leads to decrease in cardiac output. When cardiac output decrease, then body reacts by increasing the blood pressure and increasing the blood volume. This happens through very efficient system which is called as RAS system or renin angiotensin aldosterone system. Let's see what is this system in this slide. This decrease in blood volume and blood pressure is sensed by juxtaglomerular apparatus cells of kidney, and RAS system came to operation. RAS stands for renin angiotensin aldosterone system. This hormonal system is essential for the regulation of blood pressure and fluid balance. This system mainly comprises of three hormones: renin, angiotensin 2 and aldosterone. This system is primarily regulated by renal blood flow. Decrease in renal blood volume due to decrease in cardiac output is sensed by juxtaglomerular apparatus and it releases the enzyme renin. Okay, as you can clearly see, there is three factor mainly: decreased blood pressure, decreased sodium delivery to the macula densa, and increased sympathetic tone. Both these three factors stimulate the release of renin in the kidney. Now this renin goes to liver. Here it converts angiotensinogen to angiotensin 1. Then angiotensin 1 is converted to angiotensin 2. This conversion occurs mainly in lung, where angiotensin converting enzyme is produced by vascular endothelium cells. Although angiotensin converting enzyme is also generated in smaller quantities in the renal endothelium, but mainly it occurs in the lungs. Now angiotensin 2, it is a potent chemical which increases blood pressure by various mechanisms and cardiac output is maintained ultimately. Now we can see how this angiotensin 2 increases blood pressure. It acts on various organs. It acts on adrenal cortex and stimulates release of aldosterone. Aldosterone is a mineralocorticoid, a steroid hormone released from the zona glomerulosa of the adrenal cortex. This hormone mainly increases sodium reabsorption in the distal convoluted tubule of kidney, and water also get reabsorbed along with sodium. Okay, I hope it is clear. The aldosterone conserves sodium and along with sodium water also get conserved, and this lead to increase in blood pressure and cardiac output is maintained. This angiotensin 2 also act as a potent vasoconstrictor on arteriole and increase blood pressure occur. It also sympathetic nervous system. Here it increases the release of noradrenaline, which is also potent vasoconstrictor. Okay, angiotensin 2 also act on hypothalamus and stimulate the thrust center and also stimulate secretion of antidiuretic hormone to conserve water. So through this mechanism, blood volume increase and cardiac output maintain. But if we see from other perspective, now overall blood volume is increased. Suppose from 5 liter to 5.5 liter. Now heart needs to do more work. So ventricle has to apply more force to eject this increased amount of blood to aorta, which ultimately leads to ventricle hypertrophy and dilatation. And over time, these ventricle also get fatigued. So when ventricle get fatigued, then cardiac output again decrease. So more increase in BP, more RAS system will play its role. But finally, this vicious cycle can't go on. So heart failure occur and animal dies. So main motive of treatment in this disease is to control blood pressure in such a way that neither ventricle get fatigued and cardiac output also get maintained, at least to make the animal survive. That is why most of the drug administered in this disease are to decrease blood pressure or decrease blood volume or to strengthen the heart muscles. Okay, first symptom is heart murmur. Dogs with early or mild mitral valve disease will be identified by a heart murmur, which are of low grade severity, and it is heard loudest over the left side of the chest. In these cases, in which only murmur has been seen, no other symptom are typically seen. As this disease progress, exercise intolerance, increased respiratory rate or effort, and cough may develop. Cough develop due to pulmonary edema, and the heart is not functioning properly, so exercise intolerance is there. Syncope may also occur in some dogs. Syncope is mainly fainting. Fainting may also occur in some dogs. Sudden death is very rare but usually occur when catastrophic degree of severity cause the left atrium to rupture. Okay, but dog with advanced or severe mitral valve disease also experience symptoms which are consistent with heart failure. Okay, let's look how heart murmur sounds like. Okay, now let's see at the diagnosis. Physical examination will determine if there are other symptom or any underlying condition which is complicated by heart disease. Next is auscultation. Auscultation is simply listening to the heart and lung with the stethoscope. Pulse quality, heart rate, rhythm, all are assessed during auscultation. Murmurs are also assessed during auscultation. Fluid in the lungs can often be detected with a stethoscope. Next is chest radiograph. Chest radiographs are used to determine the size and shape of the heart and the presence of fluid in the lungs. Additionally, the lungs are examined for any abnormalities such as enlarged blood vessels. Next is blood and urine test. They are performed to give an indication of any other disorder in the body, to rule out any other diseases. Then electrocardiogram. Electrocardiogram may be performed to measure the electrical activity of the heart and to allow accurate determination of both heart and rate and rhythm. Any abnormal rhythm like arrhythmia or dysrhythmia can be detected and evaluated. The presence of abnormal heart rhythm help veterinarian determine the prognosis for pet condition. Now let's see at the radiography. Actually, measuring heart signs is extremely useful in assessing severity of this disease. So, thoracic radiography is a relatively simple and cost-efficient tool for assessing heart size and identifying the presence of pulmonary venous distension or edema. Measurement systems such as vertebral heart size system are useful in reducing inter-observer variability and tracking longitudinal changes in a patient heart size. So we will go into long discussion of VHS in later on, but right now just see that normal VHS size, normal vertebral heart size in dog is less than 10.7. If heart is enlarged and severely enlarged, it is considered, if it is more than 12, then it is considered that it is severely enlarged. I recommend performing baseline thoracic radiography to assess heart size on every dog with a newly discovered murmur. Baseline radiograph establish the initial degree of disease severity, and then you can again follow up after 6 to 12 months and you can see the changes in the heart size. So that is why baseline radiography is important. So just remember that if it is less than 10.7, then it's normal. If it is more than 12, it means VHS is present. As you can see in this slide, this upper one is taken, lower one is taken after 12 months of upper one. So you can clearly see the increase in heart size in this slide. Okay, echo is the gold standard for assessment of cardiac structure. Thickened and irregular wall leaflet of normal to increase the echogenicity. Size of left atrium you can clearly see is increased. Left ventricular chamber enlargement also occur in correlation to disease severity. As you can see in next slide, there is mitral valve prolapse and there is regurgitation of blood back. Okay, now let's look at the treatment. Most of the drug used to treat endocardiosis is not to treat the defective valve, but it is just to maintain the right amount of blood pressure and cardiac output. So as we have seen previously that RAS system tries to increase the blood volume and blood pressure, but we try to prevent this increase in blood pressure so that it doesn't lead to heart failure. Most of the drug used here is used to decrease blood pressure and blood volume, and some are used to strengthen the heart. So let's see. First of all, we have angiotensin converting enzyme inhibitor. These ACE inhibitors work by lowering blood pressure and reducing the afterload or resistance to blood flowing out of the heart. They are one of the most powerful and commonly used classes of drug for heart disease in both humans and pets. Okay, ACE inhibitors are the only drugs proven to extend life expectancy in both people and dogs. Examples are enalapril and benzapril. They are commonly used ACE inhibitors in dog. Next are diuretic. These are drugs that stimulate the kidney to remove excess fluid from the body. These are furosemide and spironolactone. These are most commonly used diuretic in veterinary patients. Actually, whenever encounter a patient with congestive heart failure, then the first drug of choice is diuretic, so that excessive fluid can be removed from his body. Next, we have nitroglycerin. This drug dilates the veins throughout the body, especially the one leading to the heart muscle. This helps in complete perfusion of heart muscles and its better contraction. This permit better heart contraction and allow blood to move more freely to the other body tissue. But it is only effective for 1 to 2 days because the body develops resistance to this drug. Therefore, it is only used during emergency or crisis. It is often applied topically in an ointment form. We have cardioglycoside. These drugs improve heart function in several ways. They actually strengthen the contraction of the heart, but these drugs have potential side effect, so it should be used very carefully. Next, we have vasodilators. These drugs actually dilate the arteries and vein and permit better blood flow. They can also be used long term. They are effective long term treatment for patients with MVI. Actually, ACE inhibitor and vasodilator are used combinedly in the therapy of congestive heart failure due to endocardiosis. Next, we have beta blockers. Actually, these are drugs such as propranolol, atenolol, sotalol, carvedol. They are used to slow the heart rate and lower the blood pressure. Actually, beta receptors are present in the heart. These drugs block these receptors, and it helps in lowering the heart rate. Carvedol has shown more favorable effect in treating human heart failure, and it is also gaining acceptance in veterinary medicine. Next, we have inotrop. Actually, these are drugs that are used to improve heart muscle strength. It is widely used in veterinary medicine. Example is pimobendan. It is most often used in advanced stages of heart failure. Next, we have low salt diet. Dietary salt restriction may also help prevent retention of excessive fluid in the blood. Lot many drugs, but not all of these treatment are used in an individual case of heart failure. And the results of various tests and physical examination, radiography, echocardiogram, etc. will determine which one are appropriate for your pet condition. And veterinarian will choose the appropriate medication to treat the dog. There is one more drug which is ubiquinol. It is actually coenzyme Q10 derivative. This is also shown the very positive effect in this disease. It is actually supplement. Okay, now let's have a look at this case. This is 9-year-old male neutered Cavalier King Charles Spaniel. It came for normal vaccination in the clinics, but it is diagnosed with 4 to 6 systolic left apical heart murmur, and on a report no other clinical sign. Then radiography is done, and as you can see clearly here that in radiograph its heart is very much enlarged. So along with this breed predilection, it is suspected that it must have endocardiosis. Then echocardiogram is taken. In this echocardiogram, as you can clearly see, this is in first slide, in first picture, this is actually size of atrium, and this is very much enlarged. You have no need to go so deep, but it is enlarged, okay. And here it is written LA to AO ratio. Actually, LA stand for left atrium and AO stand for aorta. As you have seen in Charlie case, this ratio is 2.1, but this ratio should be less than 1.6. This simply means that left atrium size in comparison to aorta is very much enlarged, and which is a clear-cut indication that this dog suffer from endocardiosis. But as in case of Charlie, the disease has just started, so only pimobendan has prescribed, as it is not showing any other symptom. But the one challenge here for veterinarian is to convince the owner that your dog now need long-term treatment. So in this case, only pimobendan is prescribed. I hope I got successful in make you understand this topic. I have tried to combine physiology, anatomy, pathology, biology, and pharmacology, etc., all into the one topic so that you get the holistic glimpse of this situation, that is endocardiosis.